Our tax code could not be more complicated, especially after the big, beautiful bill. But I have simple questions. What do we pay? What do we get? Many years ago, I had a chance to ask then President George Bush a question.
Mr. President, you've been a governor and a president, so you have a unique experience looking at it from two directions. What do you think tribal sovereignty means in the 21st century? And how do we resolve conflicts between tribes and the federal and state governments?
Tribal sovereignty means that it's sovereign. It means you've been given sovereignty and you're viewed as a sovereign entity.
No, not that clip. I asked him about tax policy.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned every American received a tax cut that's working. The most onerous tax for many Americans, particularly on the low end of the scale, is the payroll tax. What can be done about payroll taxes?
Well, obviously, I chose to provide tax relief by income tax cuts, not by payroll taxes. And the reason why is payroll taxes relief will affect the solvency of Social Security. So I chose not to deal with the payroll tax.
As you can see, Bush was dismissive. Payroll taxes are the taxes that hit us the hardest. Yet in most of the debates in Congress, the conversation is only about income taxes, or sometimes capital gains taxes. These are the ones wealthy people pay. Even beyond that, how can we talk about the big picture? What's our total tax burden, and what do we get for that? This is Breaking History, and I'm Mark Trahant. Before I go on, do me a favor and share this video with folks you think might be interested. That's easy, right? Everyone loves talking about tax policy. Look forward to your comments, and if you haven't subscribed, well, hit that button today. Let's start with some basics. There are two payroll taxes on wages that most of us pay. The first is Social Security, and the second is Medicare. This used to be kind of a supplemental tax, helping to fund Social Security through a so-called trust fund. More about that on another episode. That was then. Now, the payroll taxes account for about a third of all federal revenue. In theory, employers pay half of the tax, and that's something that's important because as the gig economy has grown, more of us pay both our share as a worker and a share as an employer. There is a lot of debate about the future of Social Security.
Both Social Security and Medicare will not be able to pay full benefits in just over a decade. That's according to a new report from the Entitlement Program's trustees. The report finds that if lawmakers do not act, the Social Security Trust Fund will run out of money by 2035. After that, it would only be able to pay 83% of benefits. Medicare's go-broke date for its hospital insurance trust fund is projected for the following year. Nearly 70 million Americans rely on either Social Security or Medicare.
In 1940, there were 160 workers for every retiree. Then in 1964, it was about 4 workers. Today it's 2.7 workers. On top of that imbalance, we live longer, so we draw on Social Security longer. Again, that's another show. But the thing is, Social Security is the most important federal program. Nearly every citizen, 97%, participate in one way or another. And here is where we get to tax policy and the urgent need for reform. We have a deadline coming. Beginning in 2034, Social Security will have to cut back benefits to about 80% of the current rate in order to be sustainable. The problem is the big, beautiful bill and the current White House policy in the wrong direction. President Trump, unlike President Bush, did not leave the payroll tax alone. It raises the standard deduction for all taxpayers. This does little to help lower or moderate income taxpayers, and at the same time reduces the income flow into Social Security accounts. Other Trump policies on immigration and tariffs are also doing a number on Social Security. Migrants are an essential part of Social Security because so many people contribute the taxes without collecting the benefits, or if they do, it will be decades away. There are so many screwy complications. There is a cap on what payroll taxes are collected, $176,100 per year. So people who earn more than that, they get a deal. In fact, some people have already paid their Social Security taxes for the entire year. Many employment benefits, such as health care, are not even counted. So an employee with a great health care plan, think no deductibles and full coverage, pays less taxes than someone on a lower wage scale carrying a stingy health plan. Let's zoom out. A country's tax policy really shows what it values. The big, beautiful bill did exactly that. The authors wanted more business investment, more car sales, and more fossil fuel consumption and development. On the other hand, no tax support for green energy projects and electric vehicles. The Tax Foundation says some of the provisions are just ugly. Quote, the law further complicates the tax code in several ways, sending taxpayers through a maze of new rules and compliance costs that in many cases likely outweigh potential tax benefits. No tax on tips, overtime, and car loans comes with various conditions and guardrails that, if enacted, will likely require hundreds of pages of IRS guidance to interpret, end quote. This is an important point for tribal nations, because they are not treated the same as other governments in the tax code. For example, states can issue tax-exempt bonds for a variety of purposes. Tribes can do that too, but it has to be focused on what's called an essential governmental function. That leaves out the most important reason for bonds: economic development and projects that might have a long-term benefit. It might even be a private or public partnership. There is a bill in the Senate to change that, but the idea was not included in the big, beautiful bill. I have talked and written a lot about the philosophical divide that is our politics today. Tax policy definitely fits into that framework. The primary focus of the governing party, the Republicans, is to cut taxes and regulations. The end result is that the gap between rich and poor is growing. And if you are wealthy, you are benefiting from tax policy. The poorer you are, the more likely you are to be stuck. The tax policy that the Republicans have made law means there is less or even no money for everything else. That's why the coming healthcare debate in Congress is just doomed. Yes, Americans will have to pay more to those big bad insurance companies, but there is no easy fix because Republicans already spent their capital on tax cuts. The Congressional Budget Office predicts 4 million people will lose healthcare coverage. Yet the Affordable Care Act was designed using enhanced tax credits, not direct funding. Shouldn't the Democrats be arguing that a failure to shore up healthcare funding is just a massive tax increase? This is not a good landscape for thinking about tax reform. Rewriting the rules so taxes are fairer for all of us, but we have to keep at it. I think it's worth reinforcing that the United States is not a high-tax country. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development estimates U.S. taxes at about 20% of our gross domestic product, the entire economy. That compares to an average of 34% for other wealthy nations that are measured. That should be a key fact as we change the conversation about taxes. What do we pay and what do we get? Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, share, and hit that subscribe button. I'm Mark Trahant, and this is Breaking History.